Question 1. Benchmark analysis indicates that a high-value business customer is requesting an upgrade to their existing triple play service package, citing a need for enhanced bandwidth to support new internal applications. The customer has expressed a strong desire to retain their current service provider due to a long-standing relationship. However, preliminary network monitoring suggests that the existing infrastructure in the customer's service area may be operating at near capacity, potentially impacting the quality of service for all subscribers if further demands are placed upon it. What is the most appropriate course of action for the service provider to take in this situation? Option A. Immediately agree to the upgrade to retain the high-value customer, assuming the network can accommodate the increased demand without significant impact. Option B. Inform the customer that the network is at capacity and no upgrades are possible, without investigating alternative solutions or the precise technical limitations. Option C. Conduct a detailed technical assessment of the network infrastructure serving the customer's location to determine the actual capacity and feasibility of the requested upgrade, and then communicate transparently with the customer about the findings and available options. Option D. Propose a significantly more expensive and complex service package that is technically feasible, without first exploring simpler or more cost-effective upgrade options for the current package. The correct answer is C. Conduct a detailed technical assessment of the network infrastructure serving the customer's location to determine the actual capacity and feasibility of the requested upgrade, and then communicate transparently with the customer about the findings and available options. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a professional challenge in managing customer expectations and service delivery within the constraints of a regulated telecommunications environment. The core difficulty lies in balancing the desire to retain a high-value customer with the operational realities and contractual obligations of providing triple-play services. A hasty decision without proper consideration of the underlying technical limitations and regulatory compliance could lead to service degradation, customer dissatisfaction, and potential breaches of service-level agreements, SLAs, or regulatory mandates. The need for a structured decision-making framework is paramount to ensure a fair, transparent, and compliant outcome. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a thorough technical assessment to determine the feasibility of the requested upgrade within the existing infrastructure and network capacity. This aligns with the principles of responsible service provision and regulatory compliance. Specifically, it adheres to the spirit of regulations that require service providers to offer services that can be reliably delivered and maintained. By investigating the technical limitations, the provider demonstrates a commitment to understanding the actual service capabilities rather than making unsubstantiated promises. This proactive investigation also informs potential SLA adherence and avoids misrepresentation, which are critical ethical and regulatory considerations in telecommunications. This approach prioritizes accurate information and realistic service delivery, fostering trust and long-term customer relationships within the bounds of operational and regulatory frameworks. Incorrect approaches analysis. One incorrect approach is to immediately agree to the upgrade to appease the customer without any technical validation. This fails to consider the potential for service degradation for the customer and potentially other customers on the same network segment. It also risks violating contractual SLAs if the promised performance cannot be delivered, leading to regulatory scrutiny and penalties. Ethically, it constitutes misrepresentation of service capabilities. Another incorrect approach is to flatly refuse the upgrade based solely on the customer's perceived value, without exploring any technical possibilities or alternative solutions. This can lead to customer churn and damage the provider's reputation. While regulatory frameworks often allow for service limitations, a complete lack of investigation into potential solutions can be seen as poor customer service and a failure to act in good faith, especially if the refusal is not based on genuine technical or regulatory impediments. A third incorrect approach is to offer a significantly more expensive or complex solution that is technically feasible but not aligned with the customer's stated needs or budget, without first exploring simpler, more cost-effective options. This could be seen as an attempt to exploit the customer's desire for an upgrade or as a failure to provide a proportionate and reasonable solution, potentially contravening principles of fair dealing and market conduct regulations. Professional reasoning. Professionals should employ a structured decision-making process that begins with a clear understanding of the customer's request and the existing service contract. This should be followed by a comprehensive technical assessment to evaluate feasibility and identify any constraints. The next step involves consulting relevant internal policies, SLAs, and regulatory guidelines. Based on this information, potential solutions, including the feasibility of the requested upgrade, alternative service tiers, or necessary infrastructure enhancements, should be identified. The provider should then communicate transparently with the customer, explaining the findings, any limitations, and the available options, along with their associated costs and service implications. This process ensures that decisions are informed, compliant, and customer-centric, fostering trust and maintaining operational integrity. Question 2. The assessment process reveals that a network engineer is troubleshooting intermittent voice and video quality issues for a critical business customer utilizing Alcatel Lucent triple play services. The engineer has access to the 4A0-109 exam syllabus documentation, diagnostic tools, and the Customer Service Level Agreement, SLA. Which of the following approaches best represents a professional and regulatory compliant method for addressing this situation? Option A. Focus solely on the customer's internal network infrastructure, assuming the issue is external to the service provider's network, and advise the customer to contact their IT department. Option B. Immediately initiate a full network reboot of all relevant equipment in the customer's vicinity, as this often resolves transient issues. Option C. Systematically analyze network performance metrics. Consult Alcatel Lucent specific troubleshooting guides for the 4A0-109 services, and correlate findings with customer-reported symptoms and SLA parameters to identify and resolve the root cause. Option D. Randomly adjust quality of service, (QoS) parameters on the network devices without a clear hypothesis, hoping to stumble upon a configuration that improves performance. The correct answer is C. Systematically analyze network performance metrics. Consult Alcatel Lucent specific troubleshooting guides for the 4A0-109 services, and correlate findings with customer-reported symptoms and SLA parameters to identify and resolve the root cause. Explanation. The assessment process reveals a scenario where a network engineer is tasked with troubleshooting a degraded triple play service for a high-value business customer. The customer is experiencing intermittent voice and video quality issues, impacting their critical operations. The engineer has access to various diagnostic tools and Alcatel Lucent-specific documentation for the 4A0-109 triple play services exam. The challenge lies in efficiently and accurately identifying the root cause of the problem while adhering to service level agreements, SLAs, and ensuring customer satisfaction, all within the context of the regulatory framework governing telecommunications service provision in the relevant jurisdiction, which for this exam is assumed to be a general framework applicable to service providers without specific country mandates unless otherwise stated, focusing on principles of service quality and customer care. The correct approach involves a systematic, data-driven troubleshooting methodology that prioritizes customer impact and leverages available technical resources. This aligns with the professional obligation to provide reliable and high-quality services as expected by customers, and often stipulated in service contracts and general telecommunications regulations that emphasize service continuity and performance. By following a structured approach, the engineer can isolate the issue, implement a timely resolution, and document the process, thereby upholding professional standards and regulatory expectations for service delivery. An incorrect approach might involve making assumptions without sufficient data, bypassing established diagnostic procedures, or prioritizing speed over accuracy. Such actions could lead to misdiagnosis, prolonged service disruption, and potential breaches of SLAs. For instance, randomly changing configurations without understanding their impact could exacerbate the problem and violate the principle of maintaining service integrity. Another failure would be to ignore customer-provided information, which is crucial for understanding the context of the issue and could lead to a delayed or incorrect resolution, failing to meet the customer care expectations inherent in service provision. Relying solely on generic troubleshooting steps without consulting Alcatel Lucent-specific documentation for the 4A0-109 context would be a failure to utilize available, relevant resources effectively, potentially leading to an inefficient or incomplete diagnosis. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that starts with understanding the reported problem and its impact. This is followed by gathering all relevant data, consulting appropriate technical documentation and tools, forming hypotheses, testing them systematically, and implementing the most effective solution. Documentation and communication with the customer throughout the process are also critical components of professional practice. Question 3. Assessment of the most appropriate initial step for a telecommunications provider when a new business customer requests immediate activation of Alcatel Lucent triple play services, given the need to deploy new fiber optic infrastructure to their premises. Option A. Advise the customer to wait for a notification regarding service availability without providing any interim updates. Option B. Immediately schedule the service activation for the earliest possible date to meet customer demand. Option C. Conduct a comprehensive site survey to assess infrastructure requirements and potential installation complexities before providing an estimated activation timeline. Option D. Inform the customer that activation timelines are variable and cannot be provided until the installation is complete. The correct answer is C. Conduct a comprehensive site survey to assess infrastructure requirements and potential installation complexities before providing an estimated activation timeline. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a professional challenge in managing customer expectations and service delivery within the context of Alcatel Lucent triple play services, specifically concerning the deployment of new fiber optic infrastructure. The challenge lies in balancing the urgency of service activation for a new customer with the potential for unforeseen technical issues during the installation process. A critical aspect is adhering to the regulatory framework governing telecommunications service provision, which emphasizes fair treatment of customers and accurate representation of service capabilities and timelines. The decision-maker must navigate potential delays, communicate effectively, and ensure that contractual obligations are met without compromising service quality or regulatory compliance. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a proactive and transparent communication strategy. This entails acknowledging the customer's request, performing a thorough site survey to identify potential installation complexities, and providing a realistic estimated activation timeline based on the survey findings and known deployment schedules. If potential delays are identified, it is best practice to communicate these upfront, along with the reasons and any mitigation steps being taken. This aligns with regulatory principles that mandate clear and honest communication regarding service availability and activation, preventing misrepresentation and ensuring customer satisfaction. It also reflects ethical obligations to act with integrity and diligence in service provision. Incorrect approach is analysis. Committing to an immediate activation date without a site survey or consideration of potential infrastructure limitations is a regulatory and ethical failure. This approach risks overpromising and underdelivering, leading to customer dissatisfaction and potential breaches of service-level agreements. It misrepresents the service's availability and can be seen as deceptive practice, violating consumer protection regulations that require accurate information about services. Another incorrect approach is to delay the site survey unnecessarily, thereby postponing the provision of a realistic activation timeline. This can lead to prolonged uncertainty for the customer and may violate regulations that require timely service provisioning or at least timely communication regarding service status. It demonstrates a lack of diligence and customer focus. Finally, providing a vague or non-committal activation timeframe without any concrete basis or explanation is also professionally unsound. While it avoids a firm commitment, it fails to manage customer expectations effectively and can be perceived as evasive, potentially leading to disputes and regulatory scrutiny regarding service transparency. Professional reasoning. Professionals should employ a structured decision-making framework that prioritizes customer centricity, regulatory compliance, and operational realism. This involves 1. Understanding the customer's need. Clearly define the service requested and the customer's urgency. 2. Regulatory compliance check. Identify all applicable regulations regarding service provisioning, activation timelines, and customer communication. 3. Technical assessment. Conduct necessary surveys and assessments to determine feasibility and potential challenges. 4. Realistic planning. Develop an achievable service activation plan based on technical assessment and operational capacity. 5. Transparent communication. Proactively inform the customer about the plan, potential risks, and realistic timelines, managing expectations effectively. 6. Documentation. Maintain clear records of all communication, assessments, and commitments. Question 4. Comparative studies suggest that when introducing new Alcatel Lucent triple play services, a proactive and data-informed impact assessment is crucial for maintaining service quality and operational stability. Considering the regulatory framework for telecommunications providers, which of the following approaches to impact assessment best aligns with professional best practices and regulatory expectations for service introduction? Option A. Prioritizing the fastest possible deployment of new triple play services to capture market share, with impact assessment conducted reactively as issues arise. Option B. Relying solely on vendor-provided theoretical performance data and initial marketing projections to estimate the impact on existing network resources and service levels. Option C. Performing a high-level theoretical impact assessment and then proceeding with a full-scale rollout, assuming that any unforeseen issues can be addressed post-launch by the engineering team. Option D. Conducting a comprehensive, phased impact assessment that includes pilot deployments, continuous performance monitoring, and iterative adjustments based on real-world data, with active involvement of network operations and customer support teams. The correct answer is D. Conducting a comprehensive, phased impact assessment that includes pilot deployments, continuous performance monitoring, and iterative adjustments based on real-world data, with active involvement of network operations and customer support teams. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent complexity of assessing the impact of introducing new triple play services on an existing network infrastructure. The challenge lies in accurately forecasting resource utilization, potential service degradation, and the financial implications without concrete, real-world data from the new service deployment. Careful judgment is required to balance the potential benefits of service expansion against the risks of operational disruption and customer dissatisfaction. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it involves a structured, data-driven methodology that aligns with the principles of responsible network management and service delivery, as outlined by regulatory frameworks governing telecommunications providers. Specifically, it emphasizes a phased rollout, continuous monitoring, and proactive mitigation strategies. This aligns with the implicit regulatory expectation of ensuring service quality and reliability, minimizing customer impact, and demonstrating due diligence in network planning and deployment. By focusing on empirical data and iterative adjustments, this approach minimizes the risk of widespread service failures and ensures compliance with service-level agreements, SLAs, and customer protection regulations. An incorrect approach that relies solely on theoretical projections without validation would be professionally unacceptable. This failure stems from a disregard for the practical realities of network performance and customer experience, potentially leading to service outages or degraded quality. Such an approach could violate regulatory obligations to provide reliable services and may result in customer complaints and penalties. Another incorrect approach that prioritizes rapid deployment over thorough impact assessment would also be professionally unsound. Haste could overlook critical dependencies and resource constraints, leading to unforeseen issues that negatively affect existing services and customer satisfaction, thereby contravening regulatory mandates for service continuity and quality. A third incorrect approach that neglects to involve key stakeholders, such as network operations and customer support, in the impact assessment process is also flawed. This siloed approach can lead to miscommunication, inadequate preparation, and a failure to address potential downstream consequences, undermining the overall success of the service introduction and potentially violating guidelines that promote coordinated operational planning. The professional reasoning process for similar situations should involve a comprehensive risk assessment framework. This includes identifying potential impacts across technical, operational, and customer domains. It necessitates the development of clear hypotheses regarding service performance, followed by the design of pilot programs or phased rollouts to gather empirical data. Continuous monitoring and performance metrics are crucial for validating assumptions and identifying deviations from expected outcomes. Furthermore, establishing clear communication channels with all relevant internal departments and external stakeholders is paramount for effective problem-solving and proactive management of any emerging issues. This iterative and collaborative approach ensures that decisions are informed by evidence and that potential negative impacts are mitigated effectively, thereby upholding professional standards and regulatory compliance. Question 5. Process analysis reveals that telecommunications provider is planning to introduce Alcatel Lucent triple play services, integrating voice, data, and video over a single IP network. To ensure a smooth transition and maintain service quality, what is the most comprehensive and professionally sound approach to assessing the potential impact of this deployment on existing network infrastructure, operational processes, and customer experience, in adherence with regulatory frameworks governing service provision? Option A. Rely on the experience of the engineering team with previous network upgrades and assume that the new triple play services will integrate seamlessly with minimal need for extensive impact analysis or SLA adjustments. Option B. Conduct a detailed impact assessment that quantifies potential changes in network traffic, analyzes the compatibility of existing hardware and software with the new services, evaluates the capacity of the core and access networks, simulates peak load scenarios, and reviews and updates service level agreements, SLAs, to reflect the new service offerings and ensure regulatory compliance. Option C. Perform a high-level assessment based on vendor specifications and general industry best practices for triple play deployments, assuming minimal disruption to existing services and relying on existing operational procedures without significant modification. Option D. Focus primarily on the technical implementation of the Alcatel Lucent equipment, ensuring it meets basic connectivity requirements, and defer any detailed analysis of network capacity or operational impact until after the services have been launched. Correct answer is B. Conduct a detailed impact assessment that quantifies potential changes in network traffic, analyzes the compatibility of existing hardware and software with the new services, evaluates the capacity of the core and access networks, simulates peak load scenarios, and reviews and updates service level agreements, SLAs, to reflect the new service offerings and ensure regulatory compliance. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent complexity of assessing the impact of a new triple play service deployment on existing network infrastructure and customer experience. The challenge lies in accurately forecasting potential disruptions, resource requirements, and service level agreement, SLA adherence, without resorting to overly simplistic assumptions or neglecting critical interdependencies. The need for a robust impact assessment stems from regulatory obligations to ensure service continuity and quality, as mandated by the relevant telecommunications regulatory framework. Professionals must exercise careful judgment to balance the benefits of innovation with the imperative of maintaining reliable service delivery. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a comprehensive, multifaceted impact assessment that considers technical, operational, and customer-facing elements. This includes detailed network capacity planning, simulation of traffic patterns under peak load, evaluation of existing equipment compatibility, and analysis of potential changes to operational support systems (OS) and business support systems (BSS). Furthermore, it necessitates a thorough review of current SLAs and the development of new SLAs for the triple play services, ensuring they align with regulatory expectations for service quality and availability. This approach is best professional practice because it proactively identifies and mitigates risks, ensuring compliance with regulatory requirements for service provision and customer protection. It demonstrates due diligence in understanding the full scope of the deployment's implications, thereby safeguarding service integrity and customer satisfaction. Incorrect approach is analysis. One incorrect approach is to solely focus on the technical feasibility of deploying the new services without considering the operational and customer impact. This fails to address potential network congestion, increased support call volumes, or degradation of existing services, which could lead to regulatory breaches related to service quality and customer complaints. Another incorrect approach is to rely on anecdotal evidence or past experiences with similar but not identical deployments. This lacks the rigor required for a precise impact assessment and may overlook unique challenges posed by the specific Alcatel Lucent triple play solution and the current network environment, potentially resulting in unmet SLAs and regulatory scrutiny. A third incorrect approach is to prioritize speed of deployment over thoroughness, leading to a superficial assessment that misses critical dependencies and risks. This can result in unforeseen service disruption, customer dissatisfaction, and noncompliance with regulatory mandates for reliable service delivery. Professional reasoning. Professionals should adopt a structured, risk-based approach to impact assessment. This involves defining clear objectives for the assessment, identifying all relevant stakeholders, and employing a systematic methodology that covers technical, operational, and customer dimensions. Key steps include data gathering, analysis, risk identification and mitigation planning, and communication of findings. Professionals must consult relevant regulatory guidelines and standards to ensure the assessment addresses all compliance requirements. When faced with uncertainty, it is prudent to adopt a conservative stance, assuming worst-case scenarios and developing contingency plans. Continuous monitoring and reassessment post-deployment are also crucial to adapt to evolving network conditions and customer usage patterns. Question 6. To address the challenge of introducing a new Alcatel Lucent triple play service while ensuring the continued stability and quality of existing network services, what is the most prudent approach to assessing the potential impact on the current infrastructure and customer experience? Option A. Deploy the new service and adopt a reactive strategy, addressing any performance degradations or service interruptions only after they are reported by customers or detected through basic monitoring. Option B. Conduct a comprehensive impact assessment that analyzes the new service's resource demands, potential network interactions, and projected effects on existing services and overall network capacity, developing proactive mitigation strategies based on the findings. Option C. Proceed with the deployment of the new triple play service, relying primarily on the vendor's technical specifications and assuming the existing network can accommodate the additional load without significant issues. Option D. Focus the impact assessment narrowly on the technical requirements for the new service's installation, without extensively evaluating its broader implications for other services or the network's overall performance envelope. Correct answer is B. Conduct a comprehensive impact assessment that analyzes the new service's resource demands, potential network interactions, and projected effects on existing services and overall network capacity, developing proactive mitigation strategies based on the findings. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a professional challenge because the introduction of a new triple play service, while offering potential benefits, carries inherent risks that could impact existing network performance and customer experience. The core challenge lies in proactively identifying and mitigating these risks before they manifest as service degradations or regulatory noncompliance. A hasty or incomplete impact assessment can lead to unforeseen network congestion, service interruptions, and ultimately breaches of service-level agreements, SLAs, or regulatory obligations related to service quality and availability. This requires a thorough understanding of the new service's resource demands and its potential interactions with the existing infrastructure. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a comprehensive impact assessment that meticulously analyzes the new triple play service's technical requirements, including bandwidth consumption, latency sensitivity, and potential dependencies on existing network elements. This assessment must then evaluate how these requirements will affect the current network's capacity, stability, and performance under various load conditions. By simulating different traffic scenarios and identifying potential bottlenecks or points of failure, operators can develop targeted mitigation strategies, such as network upgrades, traffic shaping policies, or enhanced monitoring. This proactive, data-driven approach aligns with regulatory expectations for service providers to maintain a certain standard of service quality and to manage their networks responsibly, thereby preventing service disruptions and ensuring compliance with any applicable service availability mandates. Incorrect approach is analysis. Implementing the new service without a thorough impact assessment, relying solely on vendor assurances, represents a significant regulatory and ethical failure. This approach disregards the operator's responsibility to ensure service quality and network stability, potentially leading to widespread customer dissatisfaction and breaches of regulatory obligations concerning service performance. It also fails to uphold ethical standards of providing reliable services, focusing the impact assessment solely on the immediate technical feasibility of deploying the service, without considering its downstream effects on existing services and overall network capacity, is another regulatory and ethical misstep. This narrow focus ignores the interconnected nature of network services and can result in the degradation of established triple play offerings, violating SLAs and potentially contravening regulations that mandate the continued provision of existing services at agreed-upon quality levels. Adopting a wait-and-see approach after deployment, addressing issues only as they arise, is a clear abdication of professional responsibility and a direct violation of proactive network management principles expected by regulators. This reactive stance is highly likely to result in service outages, customer complaints, and potential fines for noncompliance with service availability and quality regulations. It demonstrates a lack of due diligence and a failure to prioritize customer welfare and regulatory adherence. Professional reasoning. Professionals should approach the introduction of new services by first establishing a clear understanding of the regulatory landscape governing service provision and network management within their jurisdiction. This includes identifying any specific requirements related to service quality, network resilience, and customer notification. The next step is to define the scope of the impact assessment, ensuring it covers all critical network components and existing services that might be affected. This involves engaging relevant technical teams and stakeholders to gather comprehensive data on network performance and resource utilization. Based on the assessment findings, a risk register should be developed, prioritizing potential issues and outlining mitigation plans. These plans should be cost-effective, technically sound, and aligned with regulatory expectations. Finally, a robust monitoring and testing framework should be established to validate the effectiveness of mitigation strategies and to continuously assess network performance post-deployment, ensuring ongoing compliance and service quality. Question 7. Stakeholder feedback indicates a strong desire to accelerate the deployment of new Alcatel Lucent triple play services to gain a competitive advantage. Which approach best balances the urgency of market entry with the need for responsible service integration and customer satisfaction? Option A. Prioritize immediate deployment based on vendor specifications, with post-deployment monitoring to address any emergent issues. Option B. Focus solely on the technical integration of the triple play services, assuming that operational and customer support aspects will adapt organically. Option C. Conduct a comprehensive impact assessment covering technical, operational, and customer experience aspects, involving relevant internal teams and potentially external stakeholders, before proceeding with full deployment. Option D. Delay the deployment until all potential future service enhancements and integrations are fully defined and tested, to avoid future rework. The correct answer is A. Prioritize immediate deployment based on vendor specifications, with post-deployment monitoring to address any emergent issues. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between the immediate need to deploy new triple play services and the potential for unforeseen negative impacts on existing customer experiences and network stability. The pressure to innovate and capture market share can lead to rushed decisions that overlook critical impact assessment phases. Professionals must balance the drive for technological advancement with the responsibility to maintain service quality and customer satisfaction, all within the defined regulatory landscape. The complexity arises from identifying and mitigating these potential impacts proactively, rather than reactively addressing issues after deployment. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a comprehensive impact assessment that systematically identifies potential risks and benefits across all relevant stakeholder groups and network components. This includes evaluating the technical feasibility, operational readiness, customer experience implications, and regulatory compliance of the proposed triple play service integration. By engaging with technical teams, customer support, and potentially regulatory bodies early on, potential issues can be flagged and addressed before they manifest as service disruptions or customer complaints. This proactive methodology aligns with the principles of responsible service deployment, ensuring that new services are introduced in a manner that minimizes disruption and maximizes value, thereby upholding the service provider's obligations under the relevant regulatory framework. This approach demonstrates due diligence and a commitment to service continuity and customer welfare, which are often implicitly or explicitly mandated by regulatory guidelines concerning service quality and consumer protection. Incorrect approaches analysis. One incorrect approach is to proceed with the integration solely based on vendor assurances without independent verification or internal impact analysis. This fails to acknowledge the provider's responsibility to understand and manage the specific operational environment and customer base. It represents a regulatory failure by potentially violating service level agreements or consumer protection regulations if service quality degrades. Ethically, it prioritizes expediency over customer well-being. Another incorrect approach is to focus exclusively on the technical aspects of integration, neglecting the customer experience and operational support implications. This overlooks the triple play aspect, which inherently involves customer-facing services. A failure to assess the impact on customer support, billing, and overall user satisfaction can lead to widespread complaints and reputational damage, potentially contravening regulations that mandate reasonable service quality and complaint resolution processes. A third incorrect approach is to delay the impact assessment until after the service has been deployed, relying on post-deployment monitoring to identify issues. This reactive stance is professionally unsound and regulatorily risky. It can lead to significant service outages, customer dissatisfaction, and potential penalties for non-compliance with service quality standards. It also places a greater burden on resources to rectify problems that could have been prevented. Professional reasoning. Professionals should adopt a structured, risk-based approach to impact assessment. This involves defining the scope of the assessment, identifying all potential stakeholders and their concerns, and systematically evaluating the potential positive and negative impacts of the proposed change. Key steps include: 1. Defining clear objectives for the triple play service integration. 2. Conducting a thorough technical impact analysis, considering network capacity, compatibility, and security. 3. Performing an operational impact analysis, assessing the readiness of support teams, provisioning processes, and monitoring systems. 4. Evaluating the customer experience impact, including ease of use, service reliability, and support availability. 5. Reviewing regulatory compliance requirements relevant to the new services. 6. Developing mitigation strategies for identified risks. 7. Establishing clear communication channels with all stakeholders throughout the process. This systematic process ensures that decisions are informed, risks are managed, and the deployment aligns with both business objectives and regulatory obligations. Question 8. The monitoring system demonstrates a sustained increase in packet loss and jitter across the core network segment serving a residential area. What is the most appropriate approach to assess the impact on triple play services? Option A. Analyze customer complaint logs for the affected area to determine the extent of the problem. Option B. Focus solely on the impact on data services, as this is typically the most bandwidth-intensive component of triple play. Option C. Correlate the observed packet loss and jitter with the service-level agreements for voice, video, and data services, and evaluate the potential degradation in user experience for each component. Option D. Immediately escalate the issue to the network engineering team for a full network diagnostic without considering the specific impact on individual triple play services. Correct answer is C. Correlate the observed packet loss and jitter with the service-level agreements for voice, video, and data services, and evaluate the potential degradation in user experience for each component. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent complexity of assessing the impact of network performance degradation on triple play services. The challenge lies in translating technical metrics into tangible service impacts for end users, which directly affects customer satisfaction and regulatory compliance. The need for a robust impact assessment framework is paramount, especially within the regulatory environment governing telecommunications services, which often mandates service quality standards and customer protection measures. The pressure to quickly identify the root cause and mitigate the issue while understanding the full scope of service disruption requires a systematic and well-defined approach. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a multifaceted impact assessment that correlates specific network performance indicators, e.g., latency, jitter, packet loss, with the user experience for each triple play service component: voice, video, data. This requires understanding the service level agreements (SLAs) in place, both internally and with customers, and how deviations from these SLAs affect service operability and quality. By mapping technical issues to service degradation and potential customer complaints, a prioritized response can be formulated. This aligns with regulatory expectation that service providers proactively monitor and manage service quality to ensure customer satisfaction and adherence to service standards, as often stipulated by telecommunications regulators. This approach demonstrates a commitment to service assurance and customer centricity, which are core tenets of professional conduct in the telecommunications industry. Incorrect approach is analysis. Focusing solely on the technical metrics without correlating them to service impact is an incomplete and professionally deficient approach. This failure to translate technical data into a business or customer context means that the true severity of the problem and the urgency of remediation may be underestimated. This can lead to delayed or inadequate responses, potentially violating regulatory obligations related to service availability and quality. Another incorrect approach is to only consider the impact on a single triple-play service component, e.g., only data, while neglecting others. This demonstrates a lack of comprehensive understanding of the integrated nature of triple-play services and the potential for cascading failures. Such a narrow focus could lead to misallocation of resources and an incomplete resolution, again risking regulatory noncompliance and customer dissatisfaction across multiple service types. Finally, an approach that relies on anecdotal customer feedback alone, without a systematic technical correlation, is also professionally unsound. While customer feedback is valuable, it is often reactive and may not capture the full extent or technical root cause of the problem. Relying solely on this can lead to misdiagnosis and inefficient problem solving, failing to meet the proactive monitoring and management standards expected by regulators. Professional reasoning. Professionals in this domain must adopt a systematic decision-making process that begins with understanding the regulatory landscape and its implications for service quality. When faced with monitoring alerts, the first step is to contextualize the technical data within the framework of service delivery and customer impact. This involves 1. Identifying the specific triple-play services potentially affected. 2. Correlating technical performance metrics with known service quality thresholds and SLAs. 3. Quantifying the potential impact on end users for each service component. 4. Prioritizing remediation efforts based on the severity of service degradation and potential customer impact. 5. Documenting the assessment and the rationale for the chosen course of action for audit and compliance purposes. This structured approach ensures that technical issues are addressed in a manner that upholds service integrity, meets regulatory obligations, and maintains customer trust. Question 9. Stakeholder feedback indicates a strong desire for a new interactive feature within the existing triple-play service offering, which promises to enhance user engagement. However, concerns have been raised regarding its potential to strain network resources and affect the performance of core services like high-definition video streaming and voice calls. What is the most appropriate approach to manage this situation? Option A. Immediately proceed with the deployment of the new interactive feature to capitalize on the market demand and gain a competitive edge, addressing any performance issues that arise post-launch. Option B. Limit the impact assessment to only the technical feasibility of integrating the new feature, focusing solely on network capacity and ignoring potential effects on customer usability and support requirements. Option C. Prioritize the development and deployment of the new feature based on its perceived marketing appeal, assuming that any negative impacts on existing services will be minor and manageable through future optimizations. Option D. Conduct a comprehensive impact assessment that evaluates the technical, operational, and customer experience implications of the new feature across all existing triple-play services, engaging relevant stakeholders to identify and mitigate potential risks before deployment. The correct answer is D. Conduct a comprehensive impact assessment that evaluates the technical, operational, and customer experience implications of the new feature across all existing triple-play services, engaging relevant stakeholders to identify and mitigate potential risks before deployment. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between the immediate need for service enhancement and the potential for unintended consequences on existing customer experiences. The introduction of a new triple-play service feature, while beneficial for some, could negatively impact the performance or accessibility of established services for others. Navigating this requires a delicate balance, ensuring that innovation does not compromise the stability and reliability that customers expect, especially within a regulated telecommunications environment. The need for a thorough impact assessment is paramount to proactively identify and mitigate these risks before deployment. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves conducting a comprehensive impact assessment that systematically evaluates the potential effects of the new feature across all aspects of the triple play service. This includes technical performance, bandwidth, latency, jitter, service availability, customer experience, ease of use support, and compliance with relevant regulations. By engaging with various stakeholder groups, including technical teams, customer support, and potentially customer representatives, the assessment can gather diverse perspectives and identify potential issues that might be overlooked by a purely technical evaluation. This proactive, data-driven approach aligns with the principles of responsible service deployment, ensuring that the benefits of the new feature are realized without detriment to the existing service ecosystem or customer satisfaction, and importantly, without introducing any regulatory noncompliance. Incorrect approaches analysis. Deploying the new feature without a formal impact assessment is a significant regulatory and ethical failure. It demonstrates a disregard for customer welfare and operational stability, potentially leading to service degradation, increased support costs, and customer churn. From a regulatory standpoint, it could violate service-level agreements, SLAs, or other consumer protection mandates that require service providers to maintain a certain standard of service quality. Prioritizing the new feature solely based on marketing potential or perceived competitive advantage, without considering its impact on existing services, is also professionally unacceptable. This approach ignores the fundamental responsibility to existing customers and risks alienating them. It can lead to a fragmented service offering where new features are prioritized over the reliability of core services, creating a negative brand perception and potentially violating regulatory obligations related to fair service provision. Focusing the impact assessment only on the technical aspects of the new feature, while neglecting the customer experience and support implications, is another failure. While technical performance is crucial, the overall success of a triple play service hinges on its usability and the support provided to customers. An incomplete assessment can lead to a feature that works technically but is difficult to use, poorly documented, or inadequately supported, resulting in customer frustration and complaints, and potentially contravening regulations that mandate adequate customer care. Professional reasoning. Professionals in this field must adopt a risk-based, customer-centric approach to service development and deployment. The decision-making process should begin with a clear understanding of the business objectives for the new feature. This should be immediately followed by a structured impact assessment that considers technical, operational, customer experience, and regulatory dimensions. Engaging relevant stakeholders early and often is critical to gathering comprehensive insights. The results of the impact assessment should then inform a go/no-go decision or guide necessary modifications to the feature or deployment plan. This iterative process ensures that service enhancements are implemented responsibly, maximizing benefits while minimizing risks and maintaining compliance. Question 10. Consider a scenario where a telecommunications provider is planning to introduce a new suite of triple play services, including high-definition video streaming, voice-over IP telephony, and high-speed internet access, over its existing fiber-to-the-home (FTTH) network. The provider has conducted initial technical feasibility studies for the new service components. What is the most appropriate next step in ensuring a successful and compliant service launch? Option A. Conduct a comprehensive impact assessment that evaluates the effects on network capacity, performance, security, and customer support, and identifies potential risks and mitigation strategies. Option B. Proceed with the deployment of the new services immediately, assuming that any performance issues can be addressed through reactive troubleshooting after launch. Option C. Delegate the entire impact assessment process to the network engineering team, without involving other relevant departments such as customer service or operations. Option D. Focus solely on the technical integration of the new service components, deferring any considerations of customer impact or operational readiness until after the initial rollout. The correct answer is A. Conduct a comprehensive impact assessment that evaluates the effects on network capacity, performance, security, and customer support, and identifies potential risks and mitigation strategies. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent complexity of assessing the impact of a new triple-play service deployment on existing network infrastructure and customer experience. The challenge lies in balancing the potential benefits of enhanced service offerings with the risks of service degradation, customer dissatisfaction, and non-compliance with regulatory obligations. A thorough impact assessment is crucial to proactively identify and mitigate these risks, ensuring a smooth transition and adherence to service-level agreements, SLAs, and regulatory standards. The need for careful judgment arises from the interconnectedness of network components and the potential for cascading failures if impacts are not accurately predicted. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a comprehensive, multifaceted impact assessment that systematically evaluates the effects on network capacity, performance, security, and customer support. This includes detailed analysis of bandwidth requirements, latency sensitivity, potential congestion points, and the integration of new services with existing platforms. It also necessitates a review of operational procedures, staff training needs, and the capacity of customer support to handle potential inquiries or issues related to the new triple-play services. This approach aligns with best professional practices by prioritizing a proactive, risk-aware strategy that aims to minimize disruption and ensure service quality. From a regulatory perspective, this thorough assessment helps ensure compliance with service availability and quality mandates, preventing potential breaches of customer service obligations and regulatory penalties. Incorrect approaches analysis. An approach that focuses solely on the technical feasibility of deploying the new services without considering the downstream impacts on network performance and customer experience is professionally unacceptable. This would likely lead to service degradation, increased customer complaints, and potential SLA breaches, creating a reactive and costly problem-solving environment. Such an oversight could also result in regulatory scrutiny for failing to maintain service quality standards. Another incorrect approach would be to prioritize speed of deployment over the depth of the impact assessment, assuming that any issues can be addressed post-launch. This is a high-risk strategy that ignores the potential for significant service disruption and customer churn. It demonstrates a lack of due diligence and a failure to uphold professional responsibility in ensuring reliable service delivery. This can lead to significant reputational damage and potential regulatory sanctions for service failures. A third incorrect approach would be to delegate the entire impact assessment to a single department without cross-functional collaboration. This siloed approach risks overlooking critical interdependencies between different network domains and operational functions, leading to incomplete or inaccurate impact predictions. It fails to leverage the collective expertise necessary for a holistic understanding of the service's implications, potentially resulting in unforeseen issues and noncompliance. Professional reasoning. Professionals should adopt a structured and iterative approach to impact assessment. This involves defining clear objectives, identifying all relevant stakeholders, and employing a range of analytical tools and methodologies. The process should be collaborative, involving input from engineering, operations, customer support, and potentially marketing teams. Regular reviews and updates to the assessment are essential as new information becomes available or as the deployment plan evolves. Professionals should always consider the potential impact on customer experience and regulatory compliance as paramount, using the assessment as a tool to inform strategic decisions and ensure responsible service delivery. Question 11. The investigation demonstrates that a telecommunications provider, in its rollout of Alcatel Lucent triple-play services, has implemented a new customer portal without a comprehensive data encryption strategy for sensitive customer information transmitted between the portal and back-end systems. This oversight was identified during a post-deployment audit, raising concerns about potential data breaches and non-compliance with data protection regulations. Which of the following actions best addresses this situation from a regulatory and professional best practice perspective? Option A. Focus solely on resolving the immediate customer portal issue by applying a patch without re-evaluating the overall security architecture of the triple-play services. Option B. Immediately implement end-to-end encryption for all data transmitted through the customer portal and conduct a thorough security audit of the entire triple-play service infrastructure to identify and remediate any other potential vulnerabilities. Option C. Rely on existing network-level security measures, assuming they are sufficient to protect the customer data transmitted through the portal, and document this assumption in the audit report. Option D. Issue a public statement acknowledging the potential risk and promising to address it in a future software update, while continuing with the current service deployment. The correct answer is B. Immediately implement end-to-end encryption for all data transmitted through the customer portal and conduct a thorough security audit of the entire triple play service infrastructure to identify and remediate any other potential vulnerabilities. Explanation. The investigation demonstrates a scenario where a service provider, in its haste to deploy new triple play services, has overlooked critical aspects of network security and data privacy, potentially leading to regulatory noncompliance. The challenge lies in balancing rapid service deployment with the imperative to protect customer data and ensure service integrity, as mandated by the relevant regulatory framework for telecommunications services. The correct approach involves a thorough risk assessment and the implementation of robust security measures, including encryption and access controls, before and during the service rollout. This aligns with the regulatory obligation to safeguard customer information and maintain the confidentiality and integrity of telecommunications services. Adhering to these principles ensures that the provider is not only meeting technical requirements, but also fulfilling its legal and ethical responsibilities to its customers and the regulator. An incorrect approach would be to prioritize speed of deployment over security, leading to vulnerabilities that could expose customer data to unauthorized access or manipulation. This directly contravenes the regulatory requirements for data protection and service security. Another incorrect approach would be to assume that standard security protocols are sufficient without a specific assessment of the risks associated with triple play services, which often carry higher bandwidth and more sensitive data streams. This demonstrates a failure to exercise due diligence and a lack of proactive risk management, both of which are critical for regulatory compliance. A further incorrect approach might be to delegate security responsibilities entirely to third-party vendors without adequate oversight or contractual guarantees, which still leaves the primary service provider accountable for any breaches. Professionals should adopt a risk-based decision-making framework. This involves identifying potential threats and vulnerabilities, assessing their impact, and implementing appropriate mitigation strategies. Regulatory requirements should be considered the baseline, with best practices and industry standards guiding the development of more comprehensive security measures. Continuous monitoring and regular security audits are essential to adapt to evolving threats and ensure ongoing compliance. Question 12. Upon reviewing a customer complaint regarding intermittent video buffering and slow data speeds on their triple play service, which of the following diagnostic approaches best aligns with professional best practices and the operational guidelines for Alcatel Lucent triple play services? Option A. Escalate the ticket directly to the Tier 3 network engineering team without performing any initial troubleshooting or data collection. Option B. Advise the customer that the issue is likely due to their home network equipment and close the ticket without further investigation. Option C. Immediately initiate a full network-wide firmware update for all network elements involved in the customer's service path to preemptively address potential software glitches. Option D. Conduct a detailed analysis of the customer's specific service provisioning, network performance metrics for their segment, and relevant system logs to identify the root cause of the reported degradation. The correct answer is C. Immediately initiate a full network-wide firmware update for all network elements involved in the customer's service path to preemptively address potential software glitches. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent complexity of managing network performance and customer experience in a triple play service environment. The challenge lies in balancing the technical requirements of delivering multiple, bandwidth-intensive services, voice, video data, with the need to meet service-level agreements, SLAs, and maintain customer satisfaction. The pressure to quickly resolve issues, coupled with the potential for service degradation impacting a significant customer base, requires a systematic and well-informed approach. The need to adhere to specific Alcatel Lucent triple play service guidelines, which are likely tied to regulatory expectations for service quality and reliability, adds another layer of complexity. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a thorough, data-driven investigation that prioritizes the root cause analysis of the reported service degradation. This aligns with best professional practices for network operations and customer support. By examining network logs, performance metrics, and customer-specific configurations, the engineer can identify the precise technical issue. This methodical process ensures that the resolution is targeted and effective, preventing recurrence and minimizing further disruption. Adherence to Alcatel Lucent triple play service guidelines, which likely encompass performance benchmarks and fault management procedures, is paramount. This approach demonstrates a commitment to service quality and customer satisfaction, which are often implicitly or explicitly regulated to ensure fair service provision. Incorrect approaches analysis. One incorrect approach involves immediately escalating the issue to a higher support tier without conducting an initial diagnostic assessment. This represents a failure in professional responsibility and efficiency. It bypasses the opportunity for the frontline engineer to identify and resolve common issues, leading to unnecessary delays and increased operational costs. From a regulatory perspective, this could be seen as a failure to exercise due diligence in service restoration, potentially impacting the provider's ability to meet SLA commitments. Another incorrect approach is to implement a broad, system-wide configuration change as a first step, without pinpointing the specific cause of the degradation. This is a risky and unprofessional tactic that could inadvertently worsen the problem or affect other services. It demonstrates a lack of analytical rigor and a disregard for the potential impact of changes. Ethically and professionally, this approach prioritizes speed over accuracy and could lead to widespread service disruption, violating the trust placed in the service provider. A third incorrect approach is to dismiss the customer's report as an isolated incident without further investigation, assuming it is a user-specific issue. This neglects the possibility of a systemic problem affecting multiple users or a critical network component. It demonstrates poor customer service and a failure to proactively manage network health. Regulatory frameworks often mandate a certain level of responsiveness and investigation into customer-reported issues to ensure service reliability and prevent widespread dissatisfaction. Professional reasoning. Professionals should adopt a structured problem-solving methodology. This typically involves 1. Clearly defining the problem and gathering all available information, customer reports, alarms, logs. 2. Developing hypotheses about the potential causes. 3. Testing these hypotheses through systematic investigation and data analysis. 4. Implementing the most likely solution based on the evidence. 5. Verifying the resolution and documenting the process. This systematic approach ensures that issues are resolved efficiently, effectively, and in compliance with service-level agreements and any relevant regulatory guidelines for service quality and customer care. Question 13. The efficiency study reveals that during peak usage hours, the Alcatel Lucent triple play services experience a noticeable degradation in video streaming quality, potentially impacting the quality of service, (QoS) metrics. Considering the regulatory framework for telecommunications service provision, which of the following actions best represents a professionally responsible and compliant response? Option A. Adjust marketing collateral to include a disclaimer about potential video streaming quality fluctuations during peak hours, without undertaking immediate technical investigation into the service degradation. Option B. To prioritize addressing the video streaming quality degradation, assuming it is an infrequent occurrence that will not significantly impact overall customer satisfaction or regulatory compliance. Option C. Attribute the video streaming quality issue solely to external network congestion and customer device limitations, without conducting an internal audit of the Alcatel Lucent triple play services configuration. Option D. Initiate a comprehensive review of the QoS configurations within the Alcatel Lucent triple play services platform to identify and rectify the root cause of video streaming degradation, and simultaneously review marketing materials for accuracy regarding service performance. The correct answer is D. Initiate a comprehensive review of the QoS configurations within the Alcatel Lucent triple play services platform to identify and rectify the root cause of video streaming degradation, and simultaneously review marketing materials for accuracy regarding service performance. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a professional challenge related to the implementation of Alcatel Lucent triple play services, specifically concerning the quality of service, QoS parameters, and their impact on customer experience. The core challenge lies in balancing the technical requirements for optimal service delivery with the regulatory obligations to provide a certain level of service and avoid misleading advertising. The efficiency study's findings, indicating potential degradation in video streaming quality under peak load, directly impact customer satisfaction and could lead to regulatory scrutiny if not addressed proactively. Professionals must exercise careful judgment to ensure that service level agreements, SLAs, are met and that marketing claims accurately reflect the service's capabilities. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a proactive and transparent engagement with the regulatory framework governing telecommunications services. This means immediately initiating a review of the CO-S configurations, identifying the root cause of the degradation, and implementing necessary technical adjustments to ensure that the service consistently meets the defined performance metrics. Furthermore, it necessitates a review of marketing materials to ensure they do not overstate the service's capabilities, aligning with the principles of fair trading and consumer protection. This approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes customer satisfaction, adheres to regulatory requirements for service quality, and upholds ethical standards in marketing and service delivery. It demonstrates a commitment to providing a reliable and accurately represented service, thereby mitigating risks of customer complaints, regulatory penalties, and reputational damage. Incorrect approaches analysis. One incorrect approach involves ignoring the efficiency study's findings and continuing with the current configuration, assuming that the degradation is minor or infrequent. This approach fails to meet the regulatory obligation to provide a consistent and reliable service. It also breaches ethical principles by potentially misleading customers about the service's performance and could lead to significant customer dissatisfaction, complaints, and potential regulatory action for failing to meet advertised service levels. Another incorrect approach is to immediately adjust marketing materials to downplay the potential for degradation without addressing the underlying technical issue. While this might temporarily mitigate the risk of misleading advertising, it does not resolve the service quality problem. This approach is professionally unacceptable as it prioritizes a superficial fix over genuine service improvement, potentially leading to ongoing customer dissatisfaction and failing to uphold the spirit of regulatory requirements for service quality. It also demonstrates a lack of integrity in addressing service deficiencies. A third incorrect approach is to blame external factors or network congestion without conducting a thorough internal investigation into the Alcatel Lucent triple play services configuration. While external factors can contribute, a responsible provider must first exhaust all internal troubleshooting and optimization possibilities. This approach risks failing to identify and rectify internal configuration issues that are within the provider's control, thereby violating the duty to provide a service that meets defined standards and potentially leading to regulatory noncompliance. Professional reasoning. Professionals in this field should adopt a systematic decision-making process that begins with acknowledging and investigating all findings from internal studies, such as the efficiency study. The next step is to cross-reference these findings with applicable regulatory requirements and service-level agreements. A thorough technical root cause analysis should then be performed. Based on the findings, a plan for remediation should be developed, prioritizing technical solutions to improve service quality. Concurrently, marketing and customer communication strategies should be reviewed and adjusted to ensure accuracy and transparency. This structured approach ensures that both technical performance and regulatory compliance are addressed holistically, leading to sustainable service quality and customer trust. Question 14. Examination of the data shows that a telecommunications provider is planning to introduce a new suite of high-definition streaming services to its triple play offerings. Network performance monitoring indicates that current bandwidth utilization is consistently high during peak hours, with occasional packet loss and increased latency. The provider has not yet conducted a comprehensive network capacity assessment specifically for the anticipated load from these new services. Which of the following approaches best aligns with regulatory requirements and professional best practices for introducing these new services? Option A. Conduct a thorough network capacity assessment and simulation to predict the impact of the new services on existing triple play offerings. Based on the findings, develop a phased rollout plan, communicate potential service impacts and mitigation strategies to customers, and implement necessary network upgrades before a full launch. Option B. Prioritize the launch of the new high-definition streaming services, accepting that existing customers may experience temporary service degradation, and focus resources on resolving these issues after the new services are widely adopted. Option C. Proceed with the service launch as scheduled, relying on the existing network infrastructure to handle the increased demand and address any service issues that arise on a case-by-case basis. Option D. Launch the new services immediately and inform customers that any perceived service degradation is due to their individual internet usage patterns and not a systemic network issue. The correct answer is C. Proceed with the service launch as scheduled, relying on the existing network infrastructure to handle the increased demand and address any service issues that arise on a case-by-case basis. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a challenge in managing customer expectations and service delivery within the constraints of a regulated telecommunications environment. The core difficulty lies in balancing the desire to offer competitive, feature-rich services, triple play, with the obligation to adhere to service-level agreements, SLAs, and regulatory requirements regarding service availability and quality. The introduction of new, bandwidth-intensive services like high-definition video streaming can strain existing network infrastructure, potentially leading to service degradation for existing users if not managed proactively. Professionals must navigate technical limitations, customer commitments, and regulatory compliance simultaneously. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a proactive, data-driven strategy that prioritizes network capacity planning and customer communication. This aligns with regulatory frameworks that often mandate service quality, fair access, and transparent customer information. By analyzing network performance data and identifying potential bottlenecks before they impact service, the company demonstrates due diligence in maintaining service levels. Proactively communicating potential impacts and offering alternative solutions or phased rollouts is crucial for managing customer expectations and adhering to ethical obligations of transparency. This approach minimizes the risk of SLA breaches and regulatory complaints, safeguarding the company's reputation and compliance standing. Incorrect approaches analysis. One incorrect approach is to proceed with the service launch without adequate network assessment, assuming existing capacity is sufficient. This disregards the potential for service degradation, which could lead to breaches of contractual SLAs and violations of regulatory obligations concerning service quality and availability. Such a failure to plan can result in customer dissatisfaction, increased support costs, and potential regulatory penalties for noncompliance. Another incorrect approach is to prioritize the launch of new services over the stability of existing ones, leading to a deliberate degradation of service for current customers to accommodate new demand. This is ethically unsound and likely violates regulations that protect existing customer rights and service levels. It erodes customer trust and can lead to significant reputational damage and legal repercussions. A third incorrect approach is to ignore customer complaints about service quality after the launch, attributing them to individual user issues without investigating systemic network problems. This demonstrates a lack of customer care and a failure to uphold service commitments. Regulatory bodies often require service providers to have robust complaint handling mechanisms and to address service issues promptly, making this approach a clear violation of both ethical and regulatory standards. Professional reasoning. Professionals should adopt a risk-based approach to service deployment. This involves 1. Thoroughly assessing the impact of new services on existing infrastructure and customer experience. 2. Engaging in proactive capacity planning and network upgrades where necessary. 3. Developing clear communication strategies to inform customers about potential service impacts and mitigation plans. 4. Establishing robust monitoring and feedback mechanisms to quickly identify and address service issues. 5. Prioritizing compliance with all relevant regulatory requirements and contractual obligations. This systematic process ensures that service innovation is balanced with operational integrity and customer satisfaction. Question 15. Performance analysis shows intermittent degradation of triple play services for a specific customer segment, characterized by voice call drops, pixelation in video streams, and slow data speeds. The issue is not consistently reproducible during standard testing windows. What is the most effective and professionally sound approach to diagnose and resolve this issue within an Alcatel Lucent network environment, considering potential regulatory implications for service quality. Option A. Initiate a comprehensive, layered troubleshooting process starting from the customer's CPE and progressively examining the aggregation and core network elements, correlating real-time performance metrics with reported symptoms. Option B. Immediately assume the customer's home networking equipment is faulty and instruct the customer to replace their router and modem. Option C. Schedule a network-wide configuration rollback to a previous stable state, as a recent software update is suspected to be the cause of widespread issues. Option D. Advise the customer to wait until the problem becomes persistent before further investigation to ensure reproducible test conditions. Correct answer is A. Initiate a comprehensive, layered troubleshooting process starting from the customer's CPE and progressively examining the aggregation and core network elements, correlating real-time performance metrics with reported symptoms. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a common challenge in network operations where service degradation impacts customer experience and potentially regulatory compliance. The professional challenge lies in accurately diagnosing the root cause of intermittent triple play service issues, voice, video data, within a complex Alcatel Lucent network, especially when the symptoms are not consistently reproducible. Pressure to restore service quickly, coupled with the need to adhere to service level agreements, SLAs, and potentially regulatory reporting requirements, depending on the specific jurisdiction's telecom regulations concerning service quality and customer complaints, necessitates a systematic and evidence-based troubleshooting approach. Misdiagnosis can lead to wasted resources, prolonged customer dissatisfaction, and potential breaches of regulatory obligation. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a methodical, layered investigation that begins with verifying the reported symptoms, and then systematically examines the network infrastructure from the customer premises inwards, utilizing Alcatel Lucent-specific diagnostic tools and methodologies. This approach aligns with best professional practice by prioritizing data-driven troubleshooting. It ensures that all potential failure points are considered, from the customer's CPE, customer premises equipment, and the local loop to the aggregation network and core services. By correlating performance metrics, e.g., packet loss, jitter, latency, signal strength, with the reported service issues, operators can isolate the problem to a specific component or service. This systematic process is crucial for meeting the implicit and explicit requirements of service delivery, including those mandated by telecommunications regulations that often stipulate minimum service quality standards and prompt resolution of faults. Adhering to this structured methodology minimizes the risk of overlooking critical issues and ensures efficient resource allocation, ultimately leading to faster and more accurate problem resolution, which is a cornerstone of professional responsibility in service provision. Incorrect approaches analysis. Focusing solely on the customer's equipment without verifying upstream network health represents a failure to conduct a comprehensive diagnostic. This approach risks misattributing the problem to the customer when the actual fault lies within the service provider's network infrastructure. Such a failure could lead to prolonged service outages for the customer and potentially violate regulatory requirements that mandate the provider's responsibility for the end-to-end service delivery. Implementing a broad, network-wide configuration rollback without specific evidence of a recent change causing the issue is a reactive and potentially disruptive measure. This approach lacks analytical rigor and could inadvertently worsen the problem or impact other services. It fails to demonstrate due diligence in troubleshooting and could be seen as a breach of professional responsibility if it leads to further service degradation or noncompliance with service quality regulations. Ignoring intermittent symptoms and waiting for the problem to become persistent is a passive and unprofessional approach. It demonstrates a lack of proactive service management and a failure to address customer complaints promptly. Many telecommunications regulations require service providers to investigate and resolve reported faults in a timely manner, and this approach would likely fall short of those obligations, leading to potential penalties or reputational damage. Professional reasoning. Professionals facing such a scenario should adopt a structured problem-solving framework. This involves 1. Thoroughly understanding and documenting the reported symptoms, including the time, frequency, and nature of the service degradation. 2. Initiating a layered troubleshooting process, starting with the customer's environment and progressively moving towards the core network, utilizing available diagnostic tools and network monitoring systems. 3. Correlating observed network performance data with the reported issues to identify anomalies. 4. Isolating the fault to a specific network segment, device, or service. 5. Implementing targeted corrective actions based on the identified root cause. 6. Verifying service restoration and monitoring for recurrence. Throughout this process, maintaining clear communication with the customer and adhering to internal procedures and relevant regulatory guidelines for fault reporting and resolution are paramount. Question 16. The audit findings indicate a consistent pattern of increased video streaming latency exceeding the agreed-upon threshold within the triple play services network, potentially impacting customer experience and violating service-level agreements. Which of the following actions best aligns with the regulatory framework and best professional practices for addressing this CoS deviation? Option A. Immediately offer a blanket service credit to all affected customers to mitigate dissatisfaction, without a detailed technical analysis of the latency issue. Option B. Defer action until a significant number of customer complaints are received, assuming the current latency levels are within acceptable operational tolerances. Option C. Initiate a comprehensive technical investigation to identify the root cause of the latency. Analyze network performance data against SLA parameters and implement corrective actions to restore service quality. Option D. Blame the issue on upstream internet service provider congestion and cease further internal investigation pending their resolution. Correct answer is C. Initiate a comprehensive technical investigation to identify the root cause of the latency, analyze network performance data against SLA parameters, and implement corrective actions to restore service quality. Explanation. The audit findings indicate a potential breach in the Service Level Agreement, SLA, regarding quality of service, CoS, for triple play services, specifically concerning video streaming latency. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires a nuanced understanding of both technical CoS parameters and the contractual obligations stipulated in the SLA, which are governed by the regulatory framework relevant to telecommunication services in the specified jurisdiction. The pressure to resolve the issue quickly while ensuring compliance with regulatory requirements and maintaining customer satisfaction necessitates careful judgment. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it directly addresses the identified CoS deviation by initiating a thorough technical investigation aligned with the Alcatel Lucent triple play services framework and the relevant regulatory guidelines. This involves analyzing network performance metrics, identifying the root cause of latency, and implementing corrective actions to restore service to the agreed-upon SLA levels. This proactive and data-driven methodology ensures that the service provider adheres to its contractual commitments and regulatory obligations, thereby mitigating risks of penalties, customer churn, and reputational damage. It demonstrates a commitment to service quality and customer trust, which are paramount in the regulated telecommunications sector. Each incorrect approach presents specific regulatory or ethical failures. One incorrect approach might involve dismissing the audit findings without a proper investigation, citing general network stability. This fails to acknowledge the specific CoS metrics outlined in the SLA and the regulatory expectation for service providers to actively monitor and maintain service quality. Ethically, it represents a lack of diligence and a disregard for contractual obligations. Another incorrect approach could be to immediately offer compensation without understanding the root cause of the latency. While customer appeasement is important, this bypasses the technical investigation required to prevent recurrence and may violate regulatory guidelines that mandate addressing service deficiencies at their source. It also fails to demonstrate a commitment to resolving the underlying technical issue, which is a core responsibility. A third incorrect approach might involve blaming external factors without providing concrete evidence or engaging in collaborative troubleshooting as expected under industry best practices and potentially mandated by regulatory frameworks for interoperator issues. This deflects responsibility and hinders effective problem resolution, potentially violating regulations that require cooperation and timely resolution of service-impacting issues. A professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a structured approach. First, thoroughly understand the specific audit finding and its implications within the context of the SLA and applicable regulations. Second, initiate a detailed technical investigation to pinpoint the root cause, leveraging available network monitoring tools and vendor-specific expertise, e.g., Alcatel Lucent Triple Play Services documentation. Third, evaluate the findings against the SLA and regulatory requirements to determine the extent of any breach. Fourth, develop and implement a corrective action plan, prioritizing actions that address the root cause and restore service to compliant levels. Fifth, communicate transparently with stakeholders, including the customer and regulatory bodies if required, regarding the issue, the investigation, and the resolution. Finally, document all findings, actions, and resolutions for future reference and to demonstrate compliance. Question 17. Analysis of a situation where a key enterprise client urgently requests the immediate activation of their new Triple Play Services package, citing a critical business deadline. The standard provisioning process involves a multi-step verification and security configuration that typically takes 24 hours. The client's account manager is pressuring the technical team to expedite the activation, suggesting that some verification steps can be temporarily bypassed to meet the deadline. Considering the regulatory framework and guidelines for Alcatel Lucent Triple Play Services, what is the most appropriate course of action for the technical team? Option A. Immediately escalate the request to senior management for a decision on whether to bypass standard procedures, without first attempting to resolve any potential bottlenecks in the standard process. Option B. Bypass the client verification and initial security configuration steps to activate the Triple Play Services immediately, as requested by the account manager, to satisfy the urgent client demand. Option C. Proceed with the standard 24-hour provisioning process, ensuring all verification and security steps are completed, and communicate the timeline to the account manager and client, offering interim solutions if possible. Option D. Activate the Triple Play Services with only partial security configuration, and inform the client that full security will be applied later to meet the immediate activation deadline. The correct answer is C. Proceed with the standard 24-hour provisioning process, ensuring all verification and security steps are completed, and communicate the timeline to the account manager and client, offering interim solutions if possible. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between the immediate need to restore service for a high-profile client and the imperative to adhere to established network provisioning and security protocols. The pressure to bypass standard procedures for expediency, especially with a significant client, requires careful judgment to balance business needs with regulatory compliance and operational integrity. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes adherence to the Alcatel Lucent Triple Play Services framework, which implicitly includes the regulatory requirements governing service delivery and network security. By following the documented provisioning process, including the necessary security checks and client verification, the service provider ensures that the Triple Play Services are delivered in a manner that is compliant with any applicable regulations, e.g., data privacy, service level agreements, and network access controls. This methodical approach minimizes the risk of unauthorized access, service degradation, or regulatory noncompliance, thereby safeguarding both the client's and the provider's interests. An incorrect approach that involves bypassing the standard client verification and security checks before provisioning Triple Play Services would represent a significant regulatory and ethical failure. Such an action could violate data protection regulations by potentially exposing client information or granting unauthorized access to network resources. It also breaches ethical obligations to maintain service integrity and security. Furthermore, it undermines the established operational procedures designed to prevent fraud and ensure service quality, potentially leading to service disruptions or security breaches that could result in reputational damage and financial penalties. Another incorrect approach, such as immediately escalating the request to senior management without attempting to follow the standard provisioning process, fails to demonstrate due diligence. While escalation might be necessary if the standard process is genuinely blocked, attempting to circumvent it without proper justification or investigation is unprofessional. This bypasses the opportunity to identify and resolve any procedural bottlenecks within the standard framework, potentially setting a precedent for future noncompliance. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a clear understanding of the established service provisioning and security policies, When faced with urgent requests, professionals should first attempt to follow the standard procedures, identifying any obstacles. If an obstacle cannot be resolved through standard means, a documented escalation process should be initiated, clearly outlining the reasons for the deviation and the proposed mitigation strategies. This ensures accountability, maintains audit trails, and upholds regulatory and ethical standards while striving to meet client demands. Question 18. The performance metrics show a consistent increase in video buffering events and a noticeable degradation in voice call clarity for triple play services delivered over the Alcatel Lucent network. Considering the regulatory framework for telecommunication service quality, which of the following diagnostic approaches best aligns with professional best practices and regulatory compliance? Option A. Temporarily disable advanced Co-S features to simplify network troubleshooting, even if this may further impact service quality for some users. Option B. Conduct a detailed analysis of network traffic patterns, equipment health reports, and configuration logs, correlating these findings with the reported Co-S degradation to identify specific bottlenecks or faults. Option C. Immediately initiate a network-wide firmware update across all network elements to address potential software-related issues impacting service quality. Option D. Advise customers to reduce their bandwidth consumption during peak hours, assuming the issue is solely due to network congestion, without further investigation. The correct answer is C. Immediately initiate a network-wide firmware update across all network elements to address potential software-related issues impacting service quality. Explanation: the performance metrics show a consistent degradation in quality of service, CO-S, for triple play services, specifically impacting video streaming latency and voice call jitter. This scenario is professionally challenging because it directly affects customer experience and can lead to service complaints, churn, and reputational damage. The challenge lies in accurately diagnosing the root cause within a complex network environment and implementing effective remediation strategies while adhering to regulatory obligations. The correct approach involves a systematic, data-driven investigation that prioritizes customer impact and aligns with the regulatory framework governing telecommunications service provision. This includes leveraging network monitoring tools to pinpoint the source of the CO-S degradation, whether it's congestion, equipment malfunction, or configuration errors. The chosen approach must also consider the service level agreements, SLAs, in place with customers and the reporting requirements mandated by the relevant regulatory body. This ensures transparency, accountability, and timely resolution, which are paramount for maintaining customer trust and regulatory compliance. An incorrect approach would be to dismiss the performance metrics as transient anomalies without thorough investigation. This failure to proactively address service degradation violates the implicit and explicit obligations to provide reliable and high-quality services, as often stipulated in consumer protection regulations. Another incorrect approach is to implement broad, unverified network changes without isolating the problem. This can exacerbate the issue, lead to unintended consequences, and demonstrate a lack of technical competence and due diligence, potentially contravening regulations that require efficient and effective network management. Furthermore, failing to document the investigation, remediation steps, and their outcomes would be a significant regulatory and ethical failure, hindering any future audits or dispute resolutions. Professionals should adopt a decision-making framework that begins with acknowledging and validating reported issues. This is followed by a structured troubleshooting process, prioritizing customer impact. The process should involve gathering all relevant data, forming hypotheses, testing them systematically, and implementing solutions based on evidence. Continuous monitoring and validation of the fix are crucial. Throughout this process, adherence to internal policies, SLAs, and external regulatory requirements must be maintained, with clear communication to stakeholders, including customers where appropriate. Question 19. Process analysis reveals that ensuring optimal quality of service, CO-S, for voice traffic within an Alcatel Lucent triple play services network is paramount for customer satisfaction and regulatory compliance. Given the distinct latency and jitter requirements of voice compared to video and data services, what is the most effective approach to prioritize voice traffic using the Alcatel Lucent platform's capabilities to guarantee a superior voice experience? Option A. Apply a best effort delivery mechanism to all traffic types, assuming sufficient overall bandwidth will mitigate performance issues. Option B. Utilize quality of service, CoS mechanisms primarily designed for data traffic, such as strict priority queuing without specific voice traffic classification. Option C. Implement a differentiated services (diff-serv) model with appropriate traffic classification and marking, assigning a high priority, e.g., expedited forwarding to voice traffic. Option D. Over-provision network bandwidth across all segments, without implementing specific CoS policies for traffic prioritization. The correct answer is C. Implement a differentiated services (diff-serv) model with appropriate traffic classification and marking, assigning a high priority, e.g., expedited forwarding to voice traffic. Explanation: scenario analysis. This scenario presents a professional challenge in managing network performance for triple play services, specifically focusing on quality of service, CoS, for voice traffic. The challenge lies in balancing the need to prioritize voice traffic to meet stringent latency and jitter requirements with the potential impact on other services, such as video and data, which also have performance expectations. A failure to correctly implement CoS policies can lead to degraded user experience for voice calls, dropped calls, poor audio quality, and dissatisfaction with other services, potentially impacting customer retention and revenue. The professional must make a judgment call on the most effective CoS mechanism to achieve the desired service levels within the constraints of the Alcatel Lucent network architecture and relevant regulatory guidelines for service provision. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves leveraging the Alcatel Lucent platform's inherent CoS capabilities, specifically diff-serv, differentiated services, with appropriate traffic classification and marking. This method aligns with industry best practices and regulatory expectations for ensuring reliable triple-play service delivery. Diff-serv allows for granular control over traffic by assigning different service levels to different types of traffic based on their requirements. For voice, this means assigning a higher priority, e.g., EF expedited forwarding, to ensure low latency and jitter, thereby meeting the stringent requirements for real-time communication. This approach is professionally sound because it directly addresses the technical needs of voice traffic while providing a framework for managing other services. It is also compliant with general telecommunications regulations that mandate service quality and non-discriminatory service provision, ensuring that critical services like voice are not unduly compromised. Incorrect approach is analysis. One incorrect approach would be to implement a best-effort delivery model for all traffic types. This fails to acknowledge the distinct CoS requirements of voice services. Ethically and regulatorily, this is unacceptable as it directly contravenes the implicit and often explicit service level agreements, SLAs, associated with triple play offerings, particularly for voice, which is a critical communication service. It also risks violating regulations that mandate minimum service quality for telecommunications. Another incorrect approach would be to over-provision bandwidth across the entire network without implementing specific CoS mechanisms. While increased bandwidth can alleviate congestion, it is an inefficient and costly solution that does not guarantee the specific low latency and jitter required for voice, fails to address the root cause of performance issues for real-time traffic, and can lead to wasted resources. This approach is professionally weak as it lacks a targeted, efficient solution and may not meet regulatory requirements for guaranteed service quality. A third incorrect approach would be to solely rely on quality of service, CoS mechanisms designed for data traffic, such as strict priority queuing without proper classification and marking for voice. This could inadvertently starve other essential services or lead to inefficient resource allocation. It demonstrates a lack of understanding of the specific needs of real-time voice traffic and the nuances of diff-serv implementation, leading to potential service degradation and non-compliance with service quality mandates. Professional reasoning. Professionals should approach such scenarios by first understanding the specific service requirements of each triple play component, voice, video, data, and their associated CoS parameters, latency, jitter, packet loss. This understanding should then be mapped to the capabilities of the Alcatel Lucent platform. A thorough review of the platform's CoS features, including traffic classification, marking, queuing, and scheduling mechanisms, is essential. The decision-making process should prioritize solutions that offer granular control and are aligned with industry best practices for real-time traffic. Consulting relevant technical documentation and if necessary, vendor support for specific implementation details is crucial. Finally, the chosen solution must be validated against any applicable regulatory requirements for service quality and customer experience. Question 20. Research into the optimal configuration of quality of service, (CoS), parameters for Alcatel Lucent triple play services, considering the need to meet regulatory service level expectations for voice, video, and data traffic, leads to a discussion on the most effective approach to CoS policy implementation. Which of the following represents the most professionally sound and regulatory compliant method for establishing and maintaining CoS for triple play services? Option A. Prioritizing CoS configurations that maximize network bandwidth utilization, even if it means occasional degradation in real-time services like voice and video. Option B. Relying on user-reported issues and anecdotal feedback to dynamically adjust CoS parameters as problems arise. Option C. Implementing CoS policies based on a detailed analysis of network traffic patterns and a thorough understanding of regulatory service level objectives for each triple play service component. Option D. Applying a standardized, one-size-fits-all CoS configuration across all network segments to simplify management and ensure consistent resource allocation. The correct answer is C. Implementing CoS policies based on a detailed analysis of network traffic patterns and a thorough understanding of regulatory service level objectives for each triple play service component. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge in ensuring the integrity and compliance of triple play service delivery within the Alcatel Lucent framework, specifically concerning quality of service, CoS, parameters. The challenge lies in balancing the technical requirements for optimal service performance with the regulatory obligations to provide a consistent and reliable service to end users. Careful judgment is required to select the most appropriate CoS configuration that aligns with both technical feasibility and regulatory mandates. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes a proactive and data-driven methodology for CoS configuration. By conducting thorough network assessments and analyzing traffic patterns, professionals can establish baseline performance metrics. This allows for the implementation of CoS policies that are tailored to the specific demands of triple play services, voice, video, data, and are demonstrably capable of meeting or exceeding regulatory service level objectives. This aligns with the principles of responsible service provision and adherence to any applicable service quality regulations, ensuring customer satisfaction and avoiding potential penalties. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on minimizing network resource utilization without considering the impact on service quality would be professionally unacceptable. This could lead to degraded performance for voice and video services, violating implicit or explicit regulatory expectations for service reliability and user experience. Another incorrect approach that blindly applies generic CoS settings without understanding the specific traffic characteristics of triple play services would also be a failure. This could result in over-provisioning, wasting resources, or under-provisioning, leading to service disruptions and non-compliance with service quality standards. A third incorrect approach that relies on anecdotal evidence or user complaints without systematic data collection for CoS adjustments would be unprofessional. This reactive approach fails to establish a robust and verifiable CoS management framework, making it difficult to demonstrate compliance or identify root causes of performance issues. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a structured approach. 1. Understand the regulatory landscape and specific service quality requirements. 2. Conduct a comprehensive network assessment to understand current performance and traffic patterns. 3. Define clear CoS objectives based on service type and regulatory mandates. 4. Implement and configure CoS policies with a focus on achieving these objectives. 5. Continuously monitor, measure, and report on CoS performance. 6. Periodically review and adjust CoS configurations based on performance data and evolving service demands or regulatory changes.